Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. I'm still Jim Stump after all these years. And last week, I got to tell you, last week was the week that was. I heard a lot of complaints. There are a lot of fears people have going into the future. Um, Economy is one. A lot of people are worried about this depression that everyone claims is certain to happen and what's going to happen to them personally and to their families and etc. A lot of worry about finances and jobs and etc. Other people are worried about children, the way the children are behaving. There seem to be a lot of entitlement going on, and it's disturbing the adults and the communities because they fear for the future of the country if these children continue with that attitude on to middle adulthood and etc. I talked to two people who worked in schools. One was a teacher who told me that the students simply don't mind. Their so-called skills are extremely below par, and they don't seem to want to work in order to improve them. Another is a sort of I don't know if it's security guard or something. She walks around the campus and just keeps an eye on things to make sure the kids are moving to their classrooms and etc. And no one's loitering and nothing is going on. And she was complaining about the chaos and kids. We're talking about junior high school kids bringing weapons into the school and gang members older than junior high school age walking around the campus, intimidating students and selling drugs. And she said she brings these things to the attention of the administration, and the administration tells her that there's absolutely nothing she can do. That is to say, the administrators can't do anything. And by extension, she can't do anything. She's not allowed to detain the students in any way or to do anything to them to get them to change their behavior. She's not only very frustrated, she's afraid. She says she doesn't even want to go back to work because the kids are carrying weapons and they're so disrespectful. She says she's not a big lady. I'm sure she's strong and healthy. Don't misunderstand that part. But she's not tall or muscular, so therefore I can appreciate her concern for her safety. And again, it goes back to the economics. She doesn't feel she has the wherewithal to quit and go somewhere else. She has a lot of skill and a lot of talents and a lot of licenses for various things, but she would have to start over, so to speak, and find another job, preferably in a different area. She would like to get out of the city. She's in Los Angeles and she works in inner city school. So she would like to get out of the area and find something safer and some place where the students might really want to go to school and learn and etc. But she doesn't know how to find that kind of a job, and she doesn't feel she has the wherewithal to move, etc., etc., etc. So she's worried, right? But the main theme I heard last week seems to be every week wasn't about the finances or the next generation. It was about relationships. I'm always hearing about relationships. Well, I suppose that sounds right because this is relationship counseling. We're trying to help people get along with other people in their lives, trying to help people have better relationships and be happy and create an emotional abundance so that they can share that with other people and thus make the community a little bit happier. Last week, I watched a post put up by Kevin Lake, homesteading off the grid, and he read an email from someone named Anonymous who talked about having abusive parents and etc. and how all the bad things that happened to this anonymous person over the years and the effects it has had on that person and upon that person's children. Well, I received the same email, right? Probably after that posting, but Kevin Lake read most of it. At least he read the greater part of what I received, right? And the anonymous said, I only offer it so that you might find something in it that could help other people. I don't expect, anything for either you guys to come and help me or to do anything to change my situation. But I share it so that other people don't have to go through what I went through. And I wrote back and I said I most definitely will use the material. The anonymous touched on many, many, many different aspects of problematic relationships. And a lot of the things that were brought up are really serious and they can't be handled, I don't think, in this kind of a venue. someone would need to sit down and work with a counselor at a deep level to let go of the trauma and the negative effects that have been poured into that person for decades, right? That's going to take some work, I would think, and also it would have to require a place that was safe for the anonymous to speak and to share the truth. And not only that, Anonymous was afraid that the people involved in her life would hear about it and there would be repercussions, which would not be a good thing. So therefore, all those would have to be taken into consideration to work on those very deep issues and try to help that person out. But back to relationships, all that negative stuff affects our relationships going into the future. And I keep saying, the best way to quit smoking cigarettes is to never start, right? That sounds rather obvious and simplistic, but it is true. And when it comes to relationships, I believe the same thing. I think it was Red Auerbach, the owner, the manager of the Celtics basketball team in Boston. All those years they won all those pennants, they won all the championships with the great players that they had. They seemed to win year after year after year. And someone once asked Red Auerbach, what was the secret to his success? And he said, choose the right person and then let them do what they do. That's the secret to success. I think it's the same in relationships. Choose the right person and you can work it out. Let the two right people do what they do and they will work it out. You will have a good relationship if two people want that good relationship and are willing to work to keep and maintain and then to improve a good relationship. That's how it's done. Pick the right person to begin with. And why do we tend not to do that? Because we've been dented along the way, right? By family and friends and schoolmates and life and jobs and all sorts of things happen to us. And it affects us emotionally. So possibly a lot of us don't believe we deserve a good relationship, right? Because we don't believe we deserve it, we pick something that's not going to work because it is safe. That's why we pick them. They're safe. Anyway, none of this was what I intended to start speaking about today. It just sort of, you start rambling. I learned how to ramble from a certain party who are nameless, and sort of takes you where it wants to go. But let me get back to my theme, please. I was concerned about the future of the country too, because the future of the country depends on the attitude of the people in the country. A lot of people were worried about relationships and they're worried about even finding a good relationship. Last week, I was speaking to two such people. Actually, I spoke to several people about relationships, but two in particular. One male, one female. They're both right around 30 years old. They're both professional people. And judging by their self-report, the way people talk about themselves, and usually we make ourselves sound better, but I believe them. I've been talking to them for a while. These are not promiscuous people, but the people they're trying to relate to and with and etc. seem to be a promiscuous community. They are people from a promiscuous community. And these two people are trying to find a good relationship in that sort of a soup that's going on, right? Now, before you start telling me I should introduce the two of them, they live 130 miles apart, right? I think there's a lot of reasons why they might not be a good match. It doesn't mean that they are not good people. They most definitely are, but maybe they're not a good match for each other. And besides that, I don't believe in fixing people up. If they are meant to meet, they will meet, and etc. But if they don't make a relationship together, I'm hoping they find a good relationship elsewhere. But I was talking to them, and like I said, I was concerned about the country and the future of the country. So I asked them, I said, separately, I didn't have them on the phone at the same time. I said, do you want a relationship? Do you want to get married? Do you want children? And they both said they did, right? They said that's precisely what they want, but they're having trouble finding someone else who matches what they're looking for in life and fits them personally. I've said it before, it can be a great guy, it can be a great woman, but they just don't fit together. They're looking for that partner, right? And the gentleman was saying he's going through conflict with his current partner, shall we say, and apparently she's out running around, and it's destroying that relationship, and it's killing him because he wanted to marry this lady. So he's dealing with that, and he's waiting to see how that turns out. We discussed the various flags, and I said, even if you do marry her, what do you think the difficulties might be, down the line? Do you think there'll be troubles from the go because of the difference in attitude toward family and relationship and children? Or do you think it's going to work? He admitted there were things that would need to be worked out. And he also said, I wouldn't want to get married unless we were both working on our issues and working on our issues together. In other words, couples counseling, which I really recommend for everyone. If you're going to marry someone, sit down and go through all the likely issues or all the possible issues that could come up in that relationship before you get married. There's no point getting married, finding out that there's a problem after you're married, and breaking up down the line. You may as well figure it out before that happens. So we're discussing that with him. Now, and then I asked the lady, also, like I say, professional lady, well-spoken, well-dressed, makes good money, on her own, independent. And I asked her, I said, do you really want to get married? It seemed like she was having a good life, nice place to live, a nice vehicle, nice job. She was head of an office, making good money, yada, yada, yada. You sure you want a relationship? And she said, absolutely, she did. She also said she wanted children. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, here are two ideas that gives me hope for the future. Two people that want a relationship and want to be married and want to have children. They want a family. And I was talking to this lady about it, and she said to me, her ideal partner was George McFly. And I'm sitting there thinking, I remember that name from somewhere. I can't quite get it. And she said, did you ever see the movie Back to the Future? Right? Michael J. Fox. By the way, I always wondered about that movie, Back to the Future. Michael J. Fox apparently is doing all these sequences where he's skating down the street on a what do you call it, a skateboard. He's hanging onto vehicles. That is extremely dangerous, but it sure looked like he was doing those stunts himself. And I kept thinking, why would a studio risk someone of his caliber and his cost on riding a skateboard down the street where you could hit any bump and go flying off into the asphalt and break yourself forever? But anyway, Back to the Future. And I thought to myself, Back to the Future, that movie, if I'm remembering correctly, that movie was released in, 1987? I have to look that up. If I'm wrong, straighten me out. Back to the Future, the first one, not all the sequels, right? But that movie was released before this lady was born. And I'm thinking to myself, how does she know this movie, right? I like old movies. I watch them all the time. But I didn't have to ask her how she happened to know that movie. But in the meantime, she told me, she said, that's the kind of guy I want, George McFly. George McFly was the father to the Michael J. Fox character, right? And George McFly, the character in the movie, was a sort of a milquetoast guy. He was kind of a nerd. He was always doing the homework and the work for the bully, and the bully was always pushing him around. So apparently he was good at academics and etc. But he was constantly ridiculed. He was abused emotionally by his classmates and all the others. He was constantly put down and made fun of in public. And he was slapped around by the bully. And I'm saying to myself, okay, why would this woman I'm talking to want a partner like George McFly? And she said to me, what I want most of all is someone who wants me. Someone who wants me. Someone who wants to be married. Someone who wants to have a family, right? And someone we can work it out together with. That's what she told me. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's a wonderful thing to want. So it happened to be the last call of the evening for me. So after we hung up, I went online and I found the movie, Back to the Future, the original, the first one. And I watched it, and I'm looking at this thing, and it was set, if I remember correctly, in 1955. Now, the 50s have been maligned over time. They said the 50s were a make-believe in the sense that they said that people in the United States were living in a dream, in a a made-up fantasy world that didn't really exist. It was after World War II. There was a lot of work to be had. A lot of people were working, making good livings, and buying homes and raising families and this, that, and the other. But they said that wasn't real because the rest of the world was in turmoil, and it eventually caught up with the United States later on when we had um, different groups vying for attention and respect and etc. And a lot of the upheaval in the decade, right? They said so. This idea of a perfect time, this happy days kind of a time, it never existed. That's what they say. It was just something we made up and we believed we had it, but it wasn't true. Anyway, I'm watching this George McFly, and he's really meek. He's afraid, right? He's not the kind of person to stand up to anything. But what happens later on in the movie is that he takes on the bully. He actually throws a punch against this big, strong guy. He actually takes him out in order to protect the woman that he eventually is going to marry. And that's what the person I was talking to said she wanted. Someone who felt that strongly about a relationship that they're willing to stand up and take that chance. Someone who wanted her, wanted to be married, wanted children, wanted a family, wanted that whole thing. She said, that's what I'm looking for. And she said, the rest we can mold. We can fix all the rest of it. We can make a good relationship, but it has to be that first. So I watched the movie. George turns out in the end, in the beginning of the movie, he's a very shy milquetoast. He gets walked on a lot. By the end of the movie, he is a stand-up guy, not exactly a hero, but he is a hero to his wife, and he is a hero to his family. He provides for them very well. He cares about them. They are the focus of his life. That was what he wanted, and he's there for them. And that's the kind of relationship this lady said she wanted, right? And I'm thinking, that is a good choice. I don't know exactly where you're going to find that person, but it's an excellent choice, and it's an excellent way to go. So I hate to recommend that people go back to the 50s because I don't think we can ever go back. I think life occurs more in a spiral, and it goes up. In other words, we come back to the same sorts of issues, right, over here, but we're not at that level. We're at the next level. And then again, the next level, and so forth. We go up. So these issues come up, but we're not the same people. We're not the same country. We're not the same culture, right? We are someplace else. And I thought about it, and there I was despairing for the country and relationships. And I'm thinking, if we could have a return to anything, it would be a return to that idea that people want to be with that other person, that they want family, that they're willing to do whatever it takes to achieve that family and that relationship. Maybe we're up here in a very promiscuous society, but wasn't Noah in a promiscuous society? I'm not saying drown the earth. Sodom and Gomorrah, weren't they in a promiscuous society? I'm not saying burn them off the face of the planet. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that within those decadent cultures, there were good and honest people who tried to do the right thing. And they tried to share the right thing with other people and remake that culture, remake that society. I'm not expecting that we're going to overtake Hollywood. That'd be great if we did. By the way, I don't watch television. I haven't been to a movie in a movie theater in a very long time. I watch the old movies. They have better messages about human relationships and human beingness in the world and what we might want to achieve and seek and etc. share with others, right? Better messages. So I'm losing myself. But we have that sort of an idea in a promiscuous and a decadent culture of wanting good relationships and then creating those relationships and coming together. And I don't mean in some sort of a cultish or religious sort of group, but just in and among ourselves, and we join with other people who feel the same way. That's the way to let that kernel of an idea grow. And we associate with people who want those same things so that we can promote them and have more people in the community see the benefit and the value of it and appreciate the blessings of it. And by that, I mean the better life that we have if we behave these ways. So I'm attempting to name this particular post an homage to George McFly, the meek guy who stood up for what was important: a relationship, a wife, a family, and taking care of them, being the man who provides the things that men traditionally were supposed to provide, right? Sustenance for the family, security for the family, education for the family, love for the family. So, George, here's to you. And I thank the lady for turning me on to that movie. I don't even know if I ever saw it the first time, but I know if I had seen it, it was a long time ago, and she reminded me of it. So here's to you, George, and here's to all of you who want those kind of good relationships. I am encouraging you to don't settle for anything less. Go out and find it. Wait until you do find it, and then proceed from there. You'll be much happier. Just saying. I want to thank you for dropping by. I look forward to talking with you next time. Be well.